All right, now that we have some of these parallel line theorems, let's go ahead and apply them. Before we do that, let's look at our diagram here, and there's quite a bit going on. This is a parallelogram, and that is a four-sided figure that has opposite sides that are parallel. When we're dealing with parallel lines and all of those theorems we were working with before, we need to keep in mind that we had two parallel lines, one set of parallel lines, and we had one transversal for a total of 3 lines. So we need to pick 3 lines. There's a few different strategies for that, but the way I usually go about it is I kind of look at it and say, okay, well, what could my transversal be where I have some angles that I can actually work with? And looking at this diagram here, it's fairly easy to see that this transversal actually, has 2 angles that we can use. That's one side of each of these angles. So from there, I just need to pick a set of parallel lines, and that should be pretty easy. The other line that forms X, you can see now we have the angle X here, is this line here. And the line that's parallel to that is right here. And so if we only pay attention to that, well, this is just our transversal and 2 parallel lines. Great. So let's go ahead and come up with the relationship. So the first thing to determine is, are they on the same side or alternate sides of the transversal? And we can see here that they're both on the left side of the transversal. So this is going to be same side. And they're both on the interior of my 2 parallel lines. So I know it's same side interior, and I know that same side interior angles by the same side interior angle theorem are going to be supplementary. Great. So I know they're supplementary. And I mean, one of the things that you can do in situations like this too is if you make a more extreme example, these angles clearly aren't, if we make these pretty much parallel, these angles clearly aren't going to be congruent. So remember, the 2 options are congruent or supplementary. So we're pretty good there. So if we know that they are supplementary, then I can just take those 2 angles, X and X minus 30 degrees. And since they're supplementary, I know they add up to 180 degrees. And then we can just go through and solve. All right, so that I have that one X is equal to 105 degrees. So I'm going to plug that back into my diagram here, and I'm just going to plug it right in. 105 degrees there, and then 105 minus 30 is 75 degrees. And, just roughly adding those up, 105 plus 75, yep, that's 180. It seems to make sense. I would point out that, I might have drawn this picture not to scale, so always be a little careful. If, for example, these were switched, clearly this is an acute angle here. Depending on the problem, that could be the sign of an error, or could just be a sign that your drawing was never to scale. So that's kind of a quick tutorial with some quick tips on how to deal with parallel lines and apply those theorems.